I did answer.
Kerrie, I cannot see you.
No, oh, yeah, I need to press another button. Sorry.
That's all right. Hello, Kerrie. How are you?
All right, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today my guest is Kerrie Goodwin, and unfortunately is another story about child trafficking, and we are here to expose what the social services are actually doing to all the families. Kerrie, thank you so much for trusting me to share your story, and I'm sure the story is hard to hear, but we need to give voice to our children, and that's why we are here, correct?
Yes, correct, yes.
So please, we are going back to... Actually, let me ask you first. Did you have a good upbringing? Or
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Would you like to start from there then, please?
Yes, so when I was a small child, 5 months old, my stepfather came on the scene, and my mother had been abusive anyway in between that time. My life was incredibly filled with awful things. I had 3 major head injuries, one of which was a fractured skull by the time I was 9 months old. But the stories all sort of get mixed up, depends who you speak to, but basically I'd been grabbed by my ears and shaken around about that sort of age as well. And I can tell you that I was raped and beaten and abused and sexually abused by my mother also.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry to hear about that. I'm really, really sorry.
Thank you. But social services were involved, and they took me from my mother and placed me into foster care. And it wasn't until I was 35 that I got to read the reports on what happened, because obviously being such a small child, I vaguely remember little bits because my memory is amazing.
So social services took you from your mother?
Yep, and they placed me with foster carers.
How old were you?
I must have been about a year old. I think I must have been about 2, maybe 3.
Did you have any other brothers and sisters?
And that's the point. I had 2 siblings by my mum and stepfather. One of which my mother was pregnant with, and I remember that in the report it states that because my mum can put up curtains and make a house look nice, she must be good enough to have me back.
Oh my God.
And because she's pregnant with my brother. So
social services completely failed with you?
Failed immensely. Now, this is always brushed under the carpet, ignored. When I phoned up and said, look, what complaint can I make? That you failed. You absolutely failed a child, and you ruined my childhood. Their excuse was, well, if you hadn't complained about it 18 months after it happened, there's nothing we can do. That was the official comment from a social worker from Cornwall County Council. So I was like, wow, I can't believe that. So I had to be 3 years old to be able to turn around and say, yeah, well, you messed up.
So do you remember when you were a child, have you been to the hospital? Did you have doctors?
My hospital records are massive. I had a massive bundle. Because obviously during the court case for my older 3 children, I had it, and of course it triggered so many memories, emotions, feelings you can't imagine. And in between that time, I had an abusive husband, a narcissistic mother who was still very much in control, and then social services placed my children with my eldest with my mother, and my younger 2 with their father's parents.
Okay, so let me interrupt you in there, please. So did you leave your mother? Did you went to live with someone that was a kind of a domestic violence relationship? Is that correct?
So I've been living away from my parents since I was about 15. But when I had my daughter, my mum was pregnant at the same time with my sister.
Okay.
So we bonded over that. Excuse me, sorry, but we never lived together again. But we were close, and I was basically, the second parent to my sister. Her father is very happy for me to say that. He's obviously her father and he loves her dearly. But I was there picking her up from school, taking her on days out and things like that. I was the one that
Okay,
was always there for her. So
on that relationship, sorry, Kerrie, on that relationship that you were, was the partner hitting your children? Were you able to protect your children?
And that's where I'm coming to. So eventually, despite being on my own for a good 9 years, when my daughter was 9, I met a man off Match.com. Worst thing I could have ever done. He was violent from the start. He was abusive, and because I was just so grateful for someone to actually think that I was attractive or worthy of a bit of attention, someone other than my bloody mother. It was I was just grateful, and I knew it was wrong, and then I ended up pregnant. And she is all 4 of my children are my girls. And after suffering 2 years of quite severe abuse, I phoned the police.
Well done.
On what ended up less than a few months later being my husband. I know. He grabbed me, pinned me up against the wall, strangled me until I completely passed out, and then he threw me down the stairs. When I come to, and then he started smashing up the house. He smashed my windows and all sorts.
Were you able to come out of that relationship? Did you stand for yourself?
Not immediately. And this is where I'm going with this, is that then, soon after, I took him back, because that's what these narcissists and completely abusive people do. They worm their way back in. You need me. He would switch off my water from out to the pavement outside, so I had no water in the house.
Kerrie, I don't want to go into details of the domestic violence.
No,
I just want to. It's completely obvious that the social services, they have failed you, and they were not able to protect you. That's why you go in a search for love, and you are used to you have an idea of what is love from your mother, which one is not correct. So it is normal, I would use that word, that you go into that kind of relationship because you don't know what is real love. You've never been treated correctly. So from previous conversation, I believe that you then at the end you stand for yourself, and you came out of that relationship for yourself.
Yes.
But unfortunately, they failed you again. So from that relationship, how many children did you have?
From a relationship with him, I had 2 children.
Yeah.
Within a year of each other. Love them.
Yeah.
And I have so many glowing reports of how much of a good mum I was. They'd say things like our house was cluttered, and it's like that's toys.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, there was no complaints about me. The complaint was about the relationship. So I tried moving house with no help from them. I had a 6-week-old baby, so I literally given birth 6 weeks beforehand, and I had to move furniture myself.
Did they let you to stay with your children, or the social service they
removed? So initially, I had the kids. Then after 6 months of quite intensive abuse from him, I phoned the police again. And this time, because my son was toddling around, and in a rage after beating living daylights out of me, he knocked over our son. So I phoned the police. I said, look, I'm sick of him breaking in. I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that. I'm having to take him back just so I can protect the children. Social services come to my door, even though they were heavily involved. They come to my door and they said, right, we think your children should be protected. You need someone to live here. So my controlling mother wouldn't help, and I was then left with no choice but to put them into foster care. and my eldest with my mother. I didn't want to, but
social services, they gave your oldest child to your abused mother.
Yes. Yes.
And so you have 4 children at the moment. You have your oldest one is 21. The other one is 12. The next one is 11, and you have a youngest one with 21 months old.
Yes.
The other one. So the first one, you said the oldest one was put with your mother, and
yes.
The other one was separated or was with your mother as well.
No, the 2 middle children, they both by their father. They went to his parents after a very drawn out and very horrific court hearings. But obviously, in effort, because social services stopped me from seeing my children. End off. They said, "Oh, you're suicidal." I wasn't. I just wanted to numb the pain, because it's quite horrific knowing that your children are going somewhere that they've hurt you, or not only in your childhood, but as an adult. So I'm obviously crazy and stuff, but they social services stopped me from seeing them. And he obviously, to try and keep me under control, would encourage me to stay in the relationship so I could still see my children. And then that started getting a bit sporadic. So I stood up for myself thanks to a Mackenzie friend I had and some very close friends that I have here who were, funny enough, I was not younger than me. They were the first people to make me see my real worth. And I stopped. I cut all contact with my mother. I cut all contact with my ex-husband. And I got divorced. I changed my life around completely.
Well then.
I travelled the world. I've lived in 2 different countries and come back. Because, it's not, I love Britain. I don't want to leave here. But I do want to explore, but I don't want to leave here.
You were able to get your strength together.
Yeah, I got my head back together and I got myself sorted.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, as is the way, you are to go through particular steps to try and get your children back. Mm-hmm. So, go through the court process. I had to do it alone. I was very ignorant of how these things work, and I tried my best. Failed completely, because obviously social services, as they do, they say they're right, you're wrong, we don't want to listen to you. And failed many times to get access. I did get some contact with my children, but it was often sabotaged, ruined in some way, shape or form. It was very difficult. But in the meantime, a friend of mine gave me some really good advice, and it's like, take the shit sandwich and befriend your mother again. So I befriended my mum, and it ended up that as long as she could keep the benefits, as long as she can keep the money and all this sort of stuff, my daughter could move back in with me. My eldest moved home, and she's been living home. She's had to move out again recently. I'll explain in a minute, but she come home.
So, but who suggested that kind of agreement?
It was, I don't want to say it's a mutual agreement. I just said, look, I don't want money. I just want my daughter. And my mum was like, oh well, I'll give you money. No, you keep the money, because I knew if I said, I want the money back, I want to live in back with me, let's get rid of the SGO, because she could do that. She could get rid of the SGO and give it back to me. But she wouldn't do it. She wanted to keep the money, because that's one of the things my mum is very good at, is robbing people. She
So you got your child back. And
so my eldest back.
When all of this started with social services was back in 2000.
There started being involvement from Caerphilly social services back in 2009.
Yeah.
Where
and which council is involved on your case?
Caerphilly social services.
And where is that?
That's in South East Wales.
Okay. So since 2018, you have your oldest one living with you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And the other 2, they were with the father.
Yes.
Were they all right? Did you have any news?
No. I obviously knew, and for all my mother's faults, she is quite observant with certain things, and she noticed that my son in particular was displaying attachment disorder um, symptoms, and we were allowed to tend contact as long as, and all this sort of stuff. So it just got very, very difficult to attend any contacts, because even though my ex-husband wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me when I had the kids, and vice versa, he would always turn up to contact. He would always muscle his way into contact so he could be there when I was there. He'd try and bring girlfriends and things like that to try and get me to kick off. I never did, because I'm not interested. Okay, I'm just interested in my children. So it was very difficult.
Were he abusing the children? Were they?
And I'm coming to now. So when I had my new daughter,
Sorry, excuse me.
When I had my youngest, my baby, she's 22 months old now.
Yeah.
I had been fighting for some time to get contact with the children. I tried really hard to get any form of, knowledge of how they are, because obviously, because his parents had an SGO, he made it very clear to schools, doctors, police, anybody at all. They tried to suggest that I was harassing, and I haven't done anything, and I've proved it, and I'm fine about that. But everything I've done either through court or through solicitor or through social services. So I've kept above board on everything. Now, I received some paperwork, thanks to my constant efforts to try and get contact with my children. I got paperwork that stated that my son, in particular, my daughter, by him, both of them have a very harrowing psychological test results, stating that my daughter is subservient and a peacekeeper and is very much, fearful of reactions of adults. And my son is just a living time bomb. He's just so angst and anxious and angry and loud out. And within all these court paperworks, court orders even state how my ex-husband is hitting my children. And recently, without explaining too much, but basically when I met him, he was married. He divorced her, married me, had children with me, and now, 10 years later, he's back with that wife.
Yeah.
They both attacked my son in public in a park, and a member of the public contacted the police, wrote a statement, but because she's a teacher of special educational needs, she turned around and said, we use reasonable force. Slamming a kid against a fence is not reasonable force. We can use reasonable force on he's got ADHD. No, I'm a special educational needs teacher. I know for a fact you cannot place your hands on a child in the way that they did. With all this evidence, the judge turned around and goes, I'm not really interested if social services feel it's okay for him to, to do these things. It must be. And I just remember being floored, absolutely floored at her attitude of how this man can batter children, and she's more interested in how I, as the victim, just trying to protect my children. I'm a nuisance. I don't think so. So I have loads of evidence that my children have been battered and abused, not just by him, but by his ex-wife, now wife, or girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. And to then also find out that because I was pregnant with this new baby, my little one, they said they were going to take her off me anyway, so there's no point contacting me. But and I've got the paperwork. I can prove exactly what I'm saying. I've got the paperwork from Carmarthenshire Social Services, and they just absolutely railroaded us. So when my daughter was born, my youngest, they ripped me into court as quickly as they could, tried to take her off me, because I said, no, you're not putting her in for foster care. I'll go put her on my baby unit, not a problem. But you're not putting her out for foster care straight away. Because I was in a relationship 10 years ago. I don't think so. That's just victimising me for being a victim 10 years ago. Why am I being punished for something I'm not now?
So they are actually just taking your baby girl because you were a domestic violence victim more than 10 years ago.
Yeah. And because they couldn't get what they wanted and they couldn't do what they wanted, so confident that they're winning, they didn't win. And it was great because even though I had daily visits, I was on basically house arrest, 9 to 5, 7 days a week, until my daughter was nearly 7, 8 months old. So I had all of that time. I had some very good and supportive friends. I was very lucky. Everything just worked out. But it got to the point where my eldest, who was living with me, they would walk into a room, even though they weren't supposed to, they weren't allowed to, they would walk into a room when she was asleep and poke around in her room. She got so extremely stressed, upset. It just really vexed her. It was really hard for her. So I helped her and encouraged her to move out. She's now living on her own, but we are in constant contact. We see each other every day. Our relationship is fine.
How is your relationship with her?
It's amazing. Yeah, she's incredible. She's such, she is such a lovely, lovely person, and I'm very proud of how she's turned out.
Right. Now let me ask you, Kerrie, do you have any concerns that they will do to your oldest one?
Yeah,
what they have done to you.
And I am very, very fearful. Like I said to you before, I know my eldest is 21, but any of my 4 children, if they've come after me for nothing, and they've targeted my children and they've hurt my children, what about when they have children?
Yeah.
Are they going to be safe from any of this? Are they just going to turn around and use my past, their childhood against them like they did me? That's
Are your children aware? What their thoughts about having a family of their own?
Well, my eldest doesn't want children. She kind of does, but she's scared to. And she's happy at the moment. She's got a lovely boyfriend. She's got a very healthy, loving relationship. She's doing well. I'm very, very proud.
But at the end, she kind of grow up in care, involved with the social services. I know that she grew up with your mother, but she is involved in social services there, so there is a risk in there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why my fear is that they're going to target children when they're old enough and they have their own children for no reason. And there should be accountability for what has been done, because there have been loads of mistakes. But it's like, oh, wow, over 18 months ago, we can't do anything about it. For example, in my case, I just get passed off all the time. And I think what in particular really frustrates me is that the judge relies heavily on this expert to tell him the truth.
But don't you, from your experience, don't you think that the judges, they know exactly what's going on?
I think it's got to the point where they're complacent. They don't care. They're just going through the motions. Like in my court, the court usher was sleeping. I caught her sleeping every now and then. One of the barristers for the Guardian was scrolling through Facebook most of the court hearing, and I'm there watching these people taking the mick when my daughter's safety's on the line.
Yeah.
My little girl been harmed not once, not twice, but 5 times in the care of a foster carer. Now, all well and good saying it's all my bloody fault, but 2 of those incidents were when I was sharing care with the foster carer. 3 incidents since she's been in full-time foster care, when I have been completely and utterly watched like a hawk, supervised even when changing a nappy, supervised constantly. I literally can't breathe without them writing it down that I've breathed. So 3 incidents, and then, thanks to the power of good old Facebook, I found out that 2 other parents have made the same complaint about the risk of sexual abuse, the risk of accidents being caused by the other children in their care. And then obviously this caused me to read up on the foster care framework, which there is 1,000, if not more, breaches that are being made by the foster carer, and nothing's being done. And then when I go through the complaints procedure, I am then just a disgruntled mother, so we're not listening to you. And that brings me to the next thing I wanted to say about is how when a child protection medical had to be done, over a birthmark, by the way, but child protection medical had to be done, and the second set of court proceedings that I went through were exacerbated by the fact that social services had alerted the police and the NHS that I was a neglectful mum. I'd never been accused of such, and literally just one court case saying that I'm not. But they said that I was a neglectful mum, which caused bias. So they were going to the extreme. And of course, I can back up what I'm saying completely. It's not a problem. They said that this and this is a cause for concern, seeing as she's already a neglectful mum. It's like, well, if you take off that bias and look at it from the point of view where I've actually just passed parenting assessments, and they call me a drug addict.
Wow.
I'm not a drug addict. Don't get me wrong, I dabbled when I was younger, and I've had 3 or 4 months apart, 2 clean drug tests, not anything in my system. And yet they accused me of being a drug addict, and they said that my daughter has probably got symptoms of being a drug addict child, and it's like,
wow,
I'm not a drug addict. I had opiates in my system, but I'd had morphine from when I'd had my baby when I was in hospital giving birth to her. They gave me morphine after she was born.
And they are using that?
No, they said it's cocaine that I'm addicted to, and it's like, no, it's not in my system at all. So no.
And when you went to a pediatrician, was that around that time that you got a report from him saying that it was not a baby shaken syndrome that was involved?
So the first CP medical about there's a birthmark in her ear. They said, it's bruised. Because I even thought it was bruised at first because she was throwing herself around. She's busy, she was starting to crawl, very strong. So I said, I think that might be a bruise, I'm not sure. But because it took longer to go away than, I'm diabetic, and I had major surgery, and my bruises were gone, and hers was still there. And then it disappeared, and then it came back. It came back 10 times in about 3 or 4 months. And when we seen the expert paediatric dermatologist, he said quite it's better worded than I'm about to do it now, but he basically said that any paediatrician could tell you that if it's there 10 times in 4 months, it's not a fucking bruise.
Yeah.
So I was then obviously in the court wheel again then, and then they stopped me from doing absolutely anything with my daughter. I was back on 9 to 5 every day, being on lockdown. And of course, with a young baby, who the hell wants to go out before 9 o'clock in the morning? Because she's like me, she likes a good morning sleeping.
So, Kerrie, how long were you able to stay with your baby at your care?
The initial court proceedings, it was they were on the 30th of May, my birthday, and then in beginning of October last year, so 30th of May 2023 until October, I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but October, my daughter was in my care, but she had to go into respite 3 times a week so I could complete the parenting assessment, the mum and baby, you, me and mum, which is excellent to be fair. It was a really good course, but I had to go to that course every week. I had to do sessions with an independent social worker, which is parenting assessment, but she was introduced as an independent social worker. She wasn't. It was all lies.
Mm-hmm.
She isn't an independent social worker, and then when it was all questioned, I'm wrong, not them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, these 3 hours, 3 days, sorry, the 2.5 hours that my daughter was gone, not only was I expected to pay to take her there and back and all this sort of stuff, You know, I was expected to do everything, absolutely everything, and have this bully come to my house and completely torture me. And then when she was confronted for her lies, and other professionals, not just friends, other professionals from the independent, was backing me up about it. Oh,
Kerrie, the father of these, your baby, the 21 months old, is he from a? Were you able to have a healthy relationship, or?
In all fairness, we are literally, and I'm sorry to sound so basic about it, but we're literally just friends that had benefit. We've always been friends. We've been friends for a good few years. Maybe, what, 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. Yeah, 5 more. We've been friends that, you know, that used to sleep together, and, you know, none of my children were
So he supports you, and he wants you to have the baby back.
He does, yes.
Okay, well done for that.
In personal circumstances, he doesn't want to get involved, and that's fine. He wants me to deal with it, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's very hard because it's all on my shoulders again, and it's like I really need support. I need a solicitor because my solicitor is rubbish. I just want my children safe. It's not about, oh, they belong here with me. Yeah, they do, because I die for my children.
You are the mother.
I fight to the death. And nobody knows my kids like I do. Yeah. Not one single solitary person could just instinctively. And I'm not saying that's my superpower or anything like that. I just know. And of course, with the extra little bits, like my children are all allergic to something. You know, they've all had like milk, dairy allergies. 2 of them allergic to nuts. There's so much, right? And all of them have had allergies and problems when they've lived with other people. My eldest didn't have any form of severe reactions, and she has a very high nut allergies. Yeah. She went 8 on the scale, right? She didn't have any allergic reactions, but she had anaphylactic shock within a month of living with my mother. Now, my mother had been around all those 11 years that child had been around, and knew she was severely allergic to nuts, and she was most allergic to hazelnuts. And yet she gave her a praline chocolate. That screams how ineffective this system is. It doesn't work. I don't care if people come after me and go, oh, you're crap. Well, I'm what? I don't care about your opinion. What I care about is that my children have suffered needlessly.
Do you have any contact with your other children? No.
I can send them an email once a month that my ex-husband can read them if he wants to. But unfortunately, during the last court appearance, he made it very clear that he has got them trained to make the choice not to listen on their own.
When was the last time you saw them? How long ago?
2019.
Are you able to see any pictures of them?
Yeah, one of the good things that come out of that court proceedings that he has to send me 3 quarterly. He sends me 2 photographs of each. He gives me a short sentence about what they're doing. I know nothing about them and what they like and what they do.
Do they have any social media?
I'm not allowed to be honest, knowing how controlling he is, I doubt it.
You know, Kerrie, they can take your children for all this time, but they are not going to be able to hold them forever.
And that's what I'm holding on to, especially with them too, is that I'm keeping myself very active on social media. My phone number is on social media. Don't anybody other than my children ring me, please. But my phone number is on there for them. I am here. They can contact me through a friend, through a trusted individual. I'm here. I'm here busting. I'm dying to save you. I love you. All 4 of you. I love you so much. I'd give anything to help you and save you or do. Just tell you, I love you. None of this is my choice. None of this. I love you, and I will fight to the death to make sure you are safe. And I have the extreme lengths I've gone to.
Do they know where you live?
No.
No.
To be honest, he probably, as my ex-husband, probably knows where I am.
Would you like to say your email, please?
Yeah. My email is spelled Kerrie, and then it's IS, so Indigo Sierra, Cornish, so Kerrie is Cornish, @gmail.com.
So, what about your youngest one? Do you know where she is?
I know she is. I know the house.
Have you been able to see her?
I see her, and I'm obviously doing everything their way, as you do, just to make sure you're doing it right. I see her, and I have to have 2 social workers who sit and chat about everybody else's case, by the way. You know, so if you're local, I know what's happening in your case. But they sit and chat about stuff. And I see her for an hour and a half once a month.
Do you feel that...
And they do everything they can to go with me the whole time. Like when it's time to leave, I give her a kiss and I tell her, "Mummy, see you soon, love you." And then they just hold her there. And she's there screaming, "Mummy." She's there begging for me to keep her. And they hold her there. And they drag it out for as long as they can, trying to get me to react. Well done, me. I never do. I never react, and I never will, because my children come first. And that's the difference.
They really use, and they know what they're doing, and they really use our babies to get at us. They know what they are doing.
My children are hurting. And the one thing all I ever wanted in my life was to have children and to make their childhood, something worthwhile remembering. Well, I don't want them to remember any of this.
21 months old. And she knows who you are.
Oh, yeah. Even her father was, I seen her father the other day. We were going through videos and photos that we both share of her. And he said, "I can't look at the last video you sent of her." He said, "It's breaking me seeing how much she's deteriorated in these 6 months. She's gone from, she was little and she loved singing and she was a little chatterbox, and now she doesn't speak at all."
Kerrie, she says mummy. Does she say anything else?
Baby.
But you can read her thoughts through our eyes.
I know she wants to come home. I know she's suffering. I know. And if I've got, me and my daughter's father, we're not partners. We recently, we've barely even been friends, but he said to me, "She was doing so well in your care. I'm really pleased, that you were her mum. I don't get why they've done this. I don't understand." And that's, I'm not the best mum in the world, and I've made many mistakes. But to have high praise like that come from someone that at times doesn't even like me.
It does like you. Obviously, it does. You had the baby together, and you are friends. Kerrie, I can see that you are a good mother. You have feelings, very strong feelings for your children. You just want their best. And unfortunately, social services, like in your case, we can see it, they have failed you. They have not been able to protect you, and they punish you, and they have used all the abuse against you, and now they are punishing your children. And God forbid them to do exactly the same to your grandchildren. I can see that things, they are happening. I can see that parents, they are getting together, and I have the idea that more mums and dads, they're having the courage to stand up and speak up. Yes. I can see that things are happening, and these videos, they are going out there, and fortunately they are not being blocked. So
well, Well, not only that, I think that's a very good point to make, because sadly I attended a funeral this year of a beautiful, well-loved, very, very amazing woman who sadly, because social services failed to protect her as a child and then failed to protect her when she had her own children, she self-medicated on recreational stuff and passed away because her frail little body couldn't cope with it.
Would you mind to say her name?
I can't. I haven't asked her parents' permission. So.
Okay. How old was she?
She must be 23-ish.
Is it the only case that you know?
No, and that's the sad thing. And the amount of us out there going, because there's a guy out there making plaques saying blood is on your hands for the court.
Yeah.
We know too many out there that can't cope with this pain. There is no statistics. The amount of, I had a stroke in the court. And when I was trying to fight for my middle two, I had a stroke in the court.
Wow.
And instead of actually looking after me and helping me or doing anything, they said, can you go and wait for the ambulance in your car?
Can you go where?
Wait in your car for the ambulance.
Alone?
Yeah. Yeah, because we're closing now. We've run on because you've been ill. It's just stress. You're just stressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is a case actually where a mother died in court.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me at all. And sad to sound so complacent about that, but I've read about how many parents, not just mums and dads too, have come out of court completely broken, that their heart has just given up. Just completely given up. And they've died there on the pavement outside. How many of us have to suffer before something's done? And there should be no shame.
Now, Kerrie,
come in to do something, it's not because we're wrong. It's because something's happening, we need help, and we dare to ask for it. If we're strong enough to admit we can't do it, don't punish us. Help. Do something about it. It takes a village to raise a child. Why isn't that happening? Why are you just, we can judge you now.
Do you think that the society in general, in UK, they know exactly what social services are or not?
No. And you know what, it's funny because the amount of people, like I've had a couple of people from social services on me since my children have gone to say, she doesn't deserve a kid, but she's that and other. They're used as a weapon. That's all it is. It's for petty little people. Just like the police. I don't know, because I sound English and I live in Wales, I had immigration calls homing once. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I had immigration running around my house checking to see if everyone in the household was English, British side, sorry. And it's how petty people are. Malicious, vindictive actions like that. And then the powers that be have to follow along, such as social services, the police, immigration. All these things are happening.
So the fact that you had issues with the social services and the fact that you had children taken, people they know that and they use that, they carry on using that against you.
Yeah, because I think keyboard warrior is quite a nice little nickname for people like that. They're all big and hard as long as they're hiding behind someone else. I know that person's suffering, I'll kick in a low blow. And they make malicious claims. And I'm not alone, I know that, I'm not alone. But it's sad how often it happens. Really sick.
And that's why social services, they carry on doing what they do.
Because they're not accountable. And that's something that I think I should have mentioned. So I probably did mention it in part. I am one of 3 people that have complained about the same foster carer. Now, we all complained separate times. One of them was over a year ago. So separate times. We didn't meet until after we made these complaints. And because of our frustration, we've all put posts up on Facebook, like I said earlier, about the power of Facebook. I found other people. We've made these complaints to the police and social services. Yet, I've got an email from the police officer going, Oh yeah, well the duty officer just said that it's a bit of dry skin. Well, I took it to a paediatric dermatologist and they said, no, that's allergy rash and that's a bruise on her nappy area.
So you are saying that your 21 months old could be sexually abused?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I'm not the only one saying it.
And you are not what, sorry?
The only one saying the same to her children.
And they are not doing absolutely nothing.
I have a statement from Social Services Directorate stating that I'm merely a disgruntled mum and I should be happy for my child.
Can you repeat that?
I am merely a disgruntled parent and I should be happy for my child's placement. Yeah. The failings in my case, just because I communicate quite well sometimes, but when it's about how the person that needs to do something, I can't. I seem to have like a mental block. I just seem to go,
So
I need someone to swoop in, tell them you're doing it wrong, but I have to be that person. I have to do it, and I'm going around begging, screaming at every single thing. I've got a hold of the police, the MP, the ombudsman, the NSPCC, local council. I've even taken it to court. I've had to fill in and file my own documents to court. I've gone to the King's Bench and I've tried to set up an appeal and to vary or discharge the order. I've done everything physically possible. If anyone's got any advice, give me a shout, because I can't just sit back. What kind of parent would I be if I sat back and just let that happen to her?
now, Kerrie, you have mentioned several times court order. Now, are the paperwork legal? Is there really a court order, or they are no more than fraudulent papers?
Now, bear in mind, the court happened, the court case finished of all days. You ready for this? My daughter was ripped away from me and put up for adoption on the 22nd of December. So, from the 22nd of December to about Friday, so it was Friday last week, I don't know what the date was, so you have to excuse me, but Friday last week was when I received the final actual copy of the court order.
Now, my question is, are they family court is a secret court where no one is allowed to have witnesses, correct? Did you have any witness? Did you have any testimonials on your side?
Yes, and I was refused.
Okay.
By my solicitor, not by the court, admittedly, but then again, my solicitor wasn't really intent on helping out in any way, shape or form.
So family courts, they are secret courts where child trafficking is happening. Now, many of these papers, they are put under the door. They do not go to the post office. They don't have seals. Nothing has wet signatures. They are not legal papers. No one puts their accountability.
No, and that I've said a couple of times today as well. There is no accountability. The judge didn't read through any of it. I can tell that by what he said through most of it. He just based his assumptions on the fact that I was a complete emotional cripple during that week of the court hearing. And I'll happily admit, I was an emotional cripple. They pushed me to the point where I was having such severe flashbacks from the abuse I suffered as a child. Now, bear in mind, I was fine a year ago. A year ago, I was at the point where my mental health was doing amazing. I was really coming through. I had a real couple of breakthroughs. Yeah, but they tortured me to the point where I was a cripple emotionally. I was there, and I don't get cold. Anybody knows me, I'm always bloody off.
The fact of that they have taken your children from you, they have not protected. They were not able to protect you when you were a child, and the fact that they removed the children from you, that's an act of torture itself, and that they gave the children to your abuser, that itself is another torture. So
and then to accuse me of things and then have my bullies come in and say horrible things about me. And I say bullies, one was an independent social worker, the other one was a family interviewer or something. But she was presented to me, and I've got the paperwork to prove that she was presented as an independent social worker. And even her grandchildren were sending me messages of her private iPad that she had my information on. Anyway,
but Kerrie, they have done all of these against you, but you are still here. You are waiting for your children. You are waiting for your children. You love them. Yeah. How are you able to have a stable financial life waiting for your children? Are you working?
I'm not working at present. I do work every now and then. I'm in between ideas at the moment, let's just say.
Yeah.
But I have the same house.
Yeah.
The only reason I moved house from a really good house beforehand is because sadly it wasn't actually a really good house. It had fire.
My question is, are you at the moment on benefits, or you are out of it?
Yes, and I get I claim personal independence payments because I'm actually registered disabled, which they investigated and said that I lied to the court. How could any man want to have sex with someone that's stuck in the house and can't hardly walk? And that's about my recent baby's daddy. How would you ever want to have sex with someone like that? How could you go up and meet a man like that?
They use everything against the mothers and the fathers.
I remember, and this is a little anecdote that hopefully someone might find funny, is that the very last thing I stated in court, before they trapped me down, by the way, was I said, "You've raped every inch of my life. You have dragged everything up. There is literally nothing of my life and you haven't really found anything interesting, but all I've got left is my vagina. Do you want to look at my vagina?" And as funny as I find it, it's true. Do I have to lie there naked for them to poke and prod around? No, I don't need to. Because they can go and get my bloody doctor's records and have a look and see about them poking and prodding around down there. I had nothing to hide. I hid nothing other than the fact that I did know who my daughter's father was, but only after the court hearings. And even then, because he was so unreliable, and again, it's a big shock for someone who's never had a kid before to have a kid suddenly with someone that he didn't want to have a kid with. I get it, and I was trying to, because time heals. That's a big thing. Time does heal, and it's got to the point where he's comfortable now. He loves his daughter. He wants to know her, but he doesn't want to be the 2.4 children. And why the hell should we? Why should we be a family like that?
I can see that you are a very strong mother. You you said it all. You are very honest. You have opened your heart, and thank you so much for being so honest with us because many people are watching these as well. And Kerrie, we all know what social services are and what they are capable of, and unfortunately they have done it to you. They are doing, unfortunately, to your children. And I have the faith that we're going to be able to stop these, and many things are happening right now. Unfortunately, the parents, they are working together. And Kerrie, thank you so much for sharing.
And hopefully, me and you are going to be able to work towards helping other people. And I'm here. If you want any help, I'm here. I'll help out in whatever way I can.
I wish all the best to you. I would before finish the video, I would like to ask you to say your last words to your children if they are watching this video, please.
Thank you. Just basically, I love you all so much. I've never wanted any harm to come to any of you. I wish you the most amazing lives, and I hope that in time I can make that better and make that happen for you. I love you so much. reach out if you can. I love you.
I'm sure they will come back to you and carry on being very strong, because you are a strong mother. And everyone now, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave your comment below as support to Kerrie. And if you want to share your story, feel free to send me an email. If you haven't subscribed this channel, please do, and share out there, because we all need to stop child trafficking done inside family courts with the use of police and with fraudulent papers. Social services, they are not here to protect you. This has happened to me. This has happened to Kerrie. How many babies more they are going to be taken from their families for money? Thank you so much, and see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Kerrie.
You're hanging out, okay.